And this is one of my biggest Marta-isms is something is better than nothing. But once you're doing something, be strategic about it. And that's where I come in and be like, all right, let's actually have a plan to this thing. But for somebody that's not doing anything, giving them your plan that suits yourself is not going to be helpful. So let's find something that is custom to your personality so that you are being more visible like you.
Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics Raw, Real, Relatable podcast. I'm your host, Susan Robbins, epigenetic human performance coach. This is where we discuss all things lifestyle, environment, food, exercise, work, mind, and social interaction as they pertain to epigenetic expression in a way that's relatable to everyone. So if you're ready to start viewing you as an individual, take control of your life and health, and get results, buckle up, here we go. Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics Raw, Real, Relatable podcast. I'm your host, Susan Robbins, and this is the podcast where we talk about everything lifestyle and environment and how it relates to our genetic expression. We have control, people. Your genetics don't control you. And part of what I do is not just on the health side, as far as, the right foods and the right times and exercise and whatnot. But what my clients also see is they learn how they are created, authentic, genuine, who they are, and how to embrace that, because so often there's parts of us that other people just don't understand, or it might not be their cup of tea. For me, it was, you're too loud, you're too direct, your delivery sucks. And, it's just, this is how I'm created. My predominant hormones due to my formation in the womb are noradrenaline and testosterone. It makes me direct. It makes me very passionate out there. And for years and years, I dialed that back to try to please everybody. But inside it crushed me because I couldn't be me. And the more we try to be who we think, right, that everybody thinks we should be, our family, our friends, our church, school, whatever, the more it crushes our soul. And the more we embrace who we are and know that we don't have to be liked by everybody for who we are. It's okay. But when you let your true self shine, everything around you becomes so much better. The relationships, your job, because you're more fully present and accepting of yourself. And this brings me into today's podcast, which I'm excited about. I have another little spark plug, I believe another activator. Her name is Marta Spirk. She is originally from Brazil. So another little Latina flair here. And she's a singer and entrepreneur. She embodies resilience and determination in the pursuit of dreams against all odds. She's done TED Talks, and I listened to another one this morning, which is fabulous. So seek out her TED Talks. I'm sure she'll give you all the information at the end, and everything will be in the show notes. She's an award-winning author. And here's the part I love, a visibility strategist, because she believes that, same as I do, we should not be sitting back and just existing. We should be putting ourselves out there and just freaking shine. And as I glance down, it says, get your voice and gifts to shine, right? So that's what her keynote speeches are about. She has the Empowered Woman podcast, and she has a best-selling book, which arrived in my mail yesterday. And it's called The Empowered Woman, The Ultimate Road to Business Success. This is geared towards female entrepreneurs. But of course, you'll say, all right, so then men, I'm going to tune out, because this is geared towards women. And she's going to explain, don't turn this off, guys, because all this does actually apply to you as well. And I think you'll resonate with it a lot, or it may resonate with you having a female partner. And she also has the Empowered Woman School membership and workshop. So when I opened up the book and I saw the introduction, Marta and I actually met a couple of weeks ago and had a chat to see if we would gel. And it was like, I loved what she said. And the difference is, I come from an epigenetic standpoint. Marta's going to tell you she started as a life coach. So you'll see personality things there. Well, personalities are biologically driven. And that's where I am with the health types. So it's like the personality on steroids is me, and then she can help direct with things there. So the two really meshed. And the first two sentences here, you are unique and you are special. How many times do I preach that? And then she said her greatest passion is to help you know what makes you distinctive and extraordinary. And that's just exactly what I do. So it spoke to me. And again, we just do it on a level. So welcome, Miss Marta Spirk.
Thank you.
She has kids. Like, this woman does it all, people. So sit back and enjoy this one. Like I say, buckle up. It's a good one, and get ready to let your authentic self shine, which is what I say at the end of my podcast, which is crazy. So this all comes in, but welcome. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
As am I. So let's start, because you're an immigrant. You came here, you live in the American dream.
I am.
Right?
I really am.
Give us a little background on what got you where you are, and then we'll delve into all things authenticity and visibility.
Yeah. Well, me ending up in America really is me being authentic to myself. At a very young age, I was already obsessed with English, with the American culture. Obviously, in Brazil, there's huge influence of music and movies, but I really took it up a notch. I would, obsess over the music. Back in the day, there was no internet to look up the lyrics. So I would literally, pause the CD or the cassette tape and try to figure out what the lyrics were. And at 14, I started teaching English to my friends and getting paid for it. Like, it was something that started blossoming pretty early, the entrepreneurial spirit, but also knowing that I had this knack for languages and that I really enjoyed the culture. Fast forward, I ended up marrying an American and moving to the United States. But I always wondered why, where did this come from? And, to your point, the genetics and all of that. And as I started diving into personality types, which it really became a strong desire for me after having kids, which we can talk about, but I had triplets in 2016. And as you can imagine, like, upside down, out and around, like, wow, I was not expecting that. How do you prepare for that? Which is motherhood in general. But then when you say triplets, it was pretty intense. And it really took me on this journey of, I need to figure out who the hell I am so that I can be present for these kids and really help them with their individuality. Like, I understood that. That was one of the things in the blur and the craziness of a newborn stage that I realized. It's like, how can I support three people that are unique, but they're born at the same time, being raised by the same people at the same time? The only way I can do that is if I figure out who I am and what I can bring to the table. And it was in studying personality types, which for me, the biggest personality framework that helped me was the Enneagram. Mm-hmm. And that's what I brought in my book. And that I really love is understanding that my personality is very compatible with the American culture of being competitive, being individualistic, being selfish at times, being perceived as selfish of, I don't care what you think, I am going to go do this. Don't stand in my way. If you doubt me, that's when I want to do it twice as much.
Competitive. Oh, you are so activator. It's unreal.
So all of that has helped me because I also felt very guilty, the whole thing of mom guilt, mom shame of, why am I pursuing these things for myself when I should be nurturing my kids? And at times people would say that, at times I would feel that way. And then understanding, no, this is how I'm wired, really helped me be like, I'm not, just voluntarily being an awful human. This is who I am. So I need to be aware of this. Obviously, it can get exacerbated. So let's find some balance, and the healthy side of this. Sure. But just embrace the fact that I'm not going to be a person that just sits and is content with a regular day to day. I get bored easily. So that's why I got all these different things going on all of the time. But it's been amazing to see how people are inspired by that. Some people are triggered by that and they're like, you're not my person. And others are like, wow, that shows me I can do it too, especially because you have triplets. So that's been the journey.
I love it. I love it. In talking about visibility, like, what got you to the point of wanting to bring this to people, that we need to be visible? We need to be living our best lives.
Yeah. So a lot of it came as I was writing the book, actually, and in going back into my story, and even in diving into then how did this personality type develop? Like, how did this came to be? And I understood that a lot of it, obviously, the debate, nature, nurture, and I'm sure you speak to that a lot, is I was the second child, so I'm the youngest. There was a 4-year gap there. I had heard from my mom so many times. And as a parent, now I see things differently. But as a child, I perceived it a certain way of saying I didn't want another child. It was very hard. And then you came as a surprise, but our lives changed. Everything was great. But I stuck with the part of I didn't want another child. So, so I think in many ways, I felt like I needed to stand out. I need to be seen. Like my motto for as long as I know myself to be was the squeaky wheel gets the grease. If I don't ask for what I want, I'm not going to get it. Like that's how I have lived my life. And now as an adult, it served me well. If I don't put it out there and I actually tell people, hey, this is what I'm looking for, how do I expect things to just fall on my lap? And in starting my business in the beginning, encouraging moms, because that's where I was postpartum, I then realized I would much rather talk to women that are driven just as myself. So I started catching on. Like, why would I want to do something that's like pulling teeth in trying to convince a mom that they can do something for themselves if they're not there? I would rather talk to an entrepreneur who understands the importance of personal development, who understands that's a great investment of their resources and their time. And so I started speaking to women entrepreneurs. And I started seeing this pattern of, I'm afraid to ask for what I want. I'm afraid to ask for the sale. Oh, how could I say I'm good at this? And I'm thinking, friend, if you don't say it, they won't know. And it's a matter of confidence. Yes, some people may be triggered when you say, I'm really good at this. You should hire me. But then there are other people that are like, well, you must be because you're saying it and you're so, confident about it. So I started being like, clearly this is not obvious to all the people. Like it's obvious to me. So in understanding marketing, and as I started growing my business, I was like, there is a gap here that I can easily fill and get paid for. And because I'm really good at talking about myself and landing visibility opportunities, I started teaching women how to land those same visibility opportunities. Because again, to me, it was just an easy process because that's how I operate. But then I started seeing, wow, I can help people that don't operate this way and teach them the ropes because that's saving them time, which means I'm worthy of compensation.
Sure. That's a big one for women, for any entrepreneur. It is saying, I deserve to get paid for what I do. That's a hard one. I mean, I remember I was $50 an hour when I started, and I thought that was like, how am I going to charge that?
Right.
Who's going to want to pay that? And then as it crept up, when you realize your value, and this is your value, not just as a business person, but your value as a human.
Right.
And one of my favorite quotes is be valuable, not available, right? It's not just throwing yourself out there for free. And I don't mean free, but just anybody, anything, anytime. Value you, and you become more discerning. Yes. And even the people that work with you will be more discerning and wanting to work with you, as opposed to just, well, it's a cheap program, so I'll go with this one when it's not a fit in anything. Right. So one of the resounding things that I'm picking up on as you talk is, and what I deal with a lot of my people, it's fear. And myself. Even I watched these podcasts for 4 years, and people said, well, go ahead and do it. Oh, no, I'm not going to set myself out there. And you have a podcast, so I'm sure you get it. You're putting yourself out there being pretty vulnerable for the haters. But then if the haters are coming, you're doing something right? And it's whether it's that or something, just even asking for what you want. There's this innate fear, and fear is just paralyzing.
Yes, it is.
But when, like you said, when you take people and show them who they are, how they're created, and how to take these pieces of them and embrace it and work with, that fear starts going lower. And then these flowers just blossom, and you see them become, you say, oh my God, you're a different person, but they're not. They're actually, they're them for the first time. A lot of people the first time. So when we had chatted, you had brought up 3 insecurities.
Yes.
I would love for you to elaborate. We have so much good stuff to unpack here. So.
I know. It's so fun. Well, in my studies of the Enneagram and in talking about the personality types, I realized that not everybody obviously because everybody's different, was interested in diving deep into this like I am. So typically people will take an assessment, they'll figure out, oh, this is my type, cool beans. If it comes up in conversation, I'll just say this is my type, but they don't do anything with it. Ideally, you would study the other types so that you could see what the difference is. I understand that everybody's, inclination or gift even is diving into these things. So I ended up creating my own version of a spin-off of the Enneagram, if you will, because I noticed these patterns of there are 3 major insecurities. We all feel them at some point or another, but they're more prevalent for a specific type of person, and which helps in relationships, but also in you understanding yourself. Well, if this is something that I struggle with all the time, whenever you're feeling triggered or whenever you're feeling weak or like you can't move forward or stuck, you can be like, I know why.
Exactly.
Because I have this fear. So I know better now, and I can find somebody to support me, or I can do something to help myself through this anxiety or whatever it is. So the 3 biggest patterns that I have found is being afraid of taking risks. So there is a group of people out there that is very afraid of being unprepared. So they just are terrified of just showing up without the notes, right? Or not doing their homework, and those are the procrastinators in many ways, are the ones that will take a million years to get something done. And it's not because, and it could be perfectionists in some ways.
That's our diplomats. That's our diplomats.
Right. So you want to do it so much to a T. You want to play by the rules, which is an amazing trait to have. We need those people in the world.
Yeah, we do.
The ones that are like, let's just, bend the rules here a little bit. We need all of
right, because we're action oriented. We need the people that'll plan and set that up to do it the right way and
exactly
it so we can take action.
So we can leverage each other's. We are supposed to leverage each other's differences. Otherwise, we would all be the same, which would be extremely boring and unproductive. Yeah. But that's one group. Then, and obviously these overlap, like I said, but then there's the other side of it of feeling like you don't fit in. And when you talk, communities, tribes, there is no survival if somebody is shunning you and rejecting you. And at times people are afraid of voicing their opinions, of being themselves, because they think, or maybe they've been told, that they would not be accepted. So that's a huge other fear too. So it's not so much of, I don't want to take the risks because I don't want to make a mistake and look like a fool, is if I say this, they may literally reject me. So it's more a fear of rejection than a matter of principle. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah.
And then the other part of it, the other insecurity, is an insecurity of not being enough. So this is when you say people that are always busy, which is myself, always doing all of the things. At the end of the day, there is that emptiness within them for one reason or another. Again, nature, nurture, where they felt like they needed to overcompensate all of the time, And I find this sometimes, because I resonate with this one the most, is even a difficulty in receiving.
And especially with women.
Yes. A difficulty in receiving compliments, a difficulty in receiving gifts, because it's like, if you do this for me, I need to do something in return, because then I'm not being good enough,
Right.
So what, you feel awkward. Like, how could somebody love me if I'm not doing all these other things? Like, doesn't make sense. And so that's the other thing of, whereas the other 2 insecurities are not as much action oriented because they get stuck in a different way.
Right.
Then you have the people that overact, do so much, but it's because they feel like others are thinking, wow, you're not doing enough. Wow, you're not accomplished enough. And it's really themselves thinking that.
It's interesting. So much of this is expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Of what, and again, everything is how we perceive. Right?
It is.
It's never the reality. It's just how our reality is exactly how we perceive it. So we create our reality. And what I'm also finding interesting is the fear of not belonging, huge one. And you hear that with people and I know me, I was just wanted to fit in. Now I'm glad I fit out. I like being unique, but it takes took 50 some years to get there, right? To do that. And especially kids. And you grow out of that. You just want to belong. But they all go together. You have to take the risks, whether you belong or not. Or you have to take the risk. And then you risk, am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? Like, they kind of all, I think everybody listening is going to be relating to probably more so with one than another, but can relate to all three and possibly at different times of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, and that's the other aspect too that I love. That is more in-depth Enneagram studies. I typically don't go into that with my own assessment just to not overcomplicate. But, and we talked about this when we chatted a few weeks ago, that there is a healthier progression to your personality type and to who you are. So, which means you start taking on characteristics of the other types. Because if you are to think in universal terms, we are all one, right? We all are formed of the same thing, of the same particles but there are intricacies to our individual map, which means we can complement each other. But at the end of the day, we learn from each other and we grow with each other. So so I'll just speak for myself, always thinking that I need to overcompensate and do more. I learn from the people that are super okay with not doing a lot.
Yep.
I can sit and breathe and it's going to be okay. Wow, what a novel concept. So that's what I mean. And that's when right? When I talk to somebody and they're like, oh, I used to be like this, but now I'm more like that. And it's like, well, it's because you're more self-aware. You're older now. I mean, wisdom, comes with age. If you're looking to be self-aware, obviously. But yeah.
And what I find is, well, in the PH 360 and you have the embryological wheel, we're all created. When you look at one of the health types, there's all these little rungs that go out to the other 5 health types because we have parts of everybody. Like you said, we're going, like you would have different parts of the personality test, just like we have different parts of all the other health types. We're not just one. And a lot of the times the body can be one, have the mind of another. And interestingly, you'll have, and I come across this, and I don't know if you do, I come across it quite often, and I did with myself, where you're one health type that has been living as another, whether that's how you were raised or a spouse or a partner is that way. So you morph to them.
Yeah.
That wasn't me, but I was more the raised that way. So when you find out this is how I'm created, or this is as you work with a personality type, and it's really a struggle because they say, well, I've been doing this all my life. But when they start to live according to their design, again, everything falls into place and they're like, wow, this actually feels natural for me to have a lazy morning, quote lazy, because it's not lazy when they're planning, right? That's not being lazy. It's just starting their day. Where you and it's more of I can fly by the seat of my pants a little better because I just know what I need to do action wise and take it. Where they've been living, I have one client that was living just hardcore, like an activator that is a diplomat who needs that slow morning. And she said, it's a luxury to go sit outside, put her feet in the grass. And it's literally a luxury and amazing.
Yeah.
And so to see that, I totally get what you're saying there. It's great. So you will work with somebody to work with these fears and get rid of these fears so that their visibility can shine, correct?
Yeah. Well, and in helping them see that it's not going to look like the same way that I show up. Because that's the biggest thing that started happening as I started coaching women is that they would come to me and they say, well, Marta, I could never do like you do it. I could never show up like you show up. And then it got to a point where I was like, well, you don't want to.
Right. You're not me.
Exactly. So do things the way that you want to. And so that helped me support clients in being like, I'm not, because I work a lot with social media content, for example. And there are some people that feel overwhelmed at just the thought of writing a post. And it's like, well, clearly you're not going to be like me. I enjoy posting 5 times a week. But obviously I will challenge you a little bit because visibility is the goal, but you don't have to go balls to the wall because it's going to feel inauthentic and you're going to burn out. And then we're actually going to get the opposite effect of, I don't want to do this ever again. That's not
absolutely
what we want.
Yeah.
But it takes us having that conversation and then understanding what feels okay for you, but let's challenge you a little more. A lot of what I talk about is, for example, email marketing. People dread sending that email because they don't want to get unsubscribes.
Farm that out. Don't make me do that. That's like, oh, you
right, and they don't know what to say
under my fingernails than do
right.
email.
Exactly. It's like torture, and it's like, okay, well, what could you do that's a little bit more out of your comfort zone, but that's actually doing something? And this is one of my biggest Marta-isms is something is better than nothing. But once you're doing something, be strategic about it. And that's where I come in and be like, all right, let's actually have a plan to this thing. But for somebody that's not doing anything, giving them your plan that suits yourself is not going to be helpful. So let's find something that is custom to your personality so that you are being more visible like you.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So, and that was one of the things I had written down when we had talked was how to be visible and accept yourself. I mean, this is all the key. And you talked about self-awareness patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could elaborate on that.
Yes, definitely. Well, it all starts with that self-awareness, right? And when we're talking about being confident or, you have to believe in yourself. Well, it's really hard to believe something you don't even know. So, or when you say love yourself, you have all the t-shirts, all of the mugs, all of the stickers, but it's really hard to love somebody that you don't know. And I use my kids as an example, or even, friends or a romantic partner. At times you meet somebody and you're like, I don't really jive with this person. And then the more you get to know them, you start falling in love with them because you start, same thing with my kids. I look at their baby pictures and I'm like, I loved you, obviously, but I love you so much more because now I know you.
Yeah.
We've been around each other. I miss your voice. I just know you so much better. And a part of me wishes I had known them when they were small because I would appreciate them more, but I digress. That's the whole point of self-awareness is it's so obvious, but not enough people are talking about this. So I'm very grateful that we're having this conversation and that there are people like you talking about this and coaching others is get to know yourself for the love of all things is it's not wrong. It's not you taking away from the people in your life. Quite the contrary. It's you giving.
Thank you. I'm just so glad that you just said that because I was going to say it's totally opposite. If you don't know you can't be fully present in any area of your life. Sorry. There's always going to be that block when you don't know. And then you have people that are afraid to be alone, to spend any time with themselves.
Yeah.
Right. That's truly frightening to some people. They need to constantly be around others to keep validating because they don't want to sit in that dark space.
Yeah.
To go through the shit, really, to get to the deep of where they are, who they are, and accept that acceptance is just so difficult for people. And so the awareness when someone starts understanding why they are how they are and how it can be, because even with us, like the directness, and I have people, Susan, your delivery sucks. Okay. Sometimes it does. But when you understand that about me, that never does it come from a malicious standpoint. It's just because I'm busy or I have all these things I have in my mind to do. So if I see a text in the middle of a work day and it might be important, so I'll respond, but I'll respond very briefly. I feel like I'm still responding, but that it could be taken in an incorrect manner, that it's my delivery. So now I say, okay, maybe I'll wait a little till the end of the day when things are a little bit slower and I can think about what I want to say, how I want to say it, where I thought I was being at least better to respond. So sometimes it's not, right? So when you understand, when you're aware of this and understand like how these things could be put out there and be hopefully fortunate enough to have people that are honest with you and say these things so that awareness can still be created. And it doesn't mean it's a fault because people take things so critically and they're not faults of us. They're just parts of us that we can work with. It's not taking away from your core, just a little adjustment in the areas that in some ways was a great strength as a police officer, but not great in other ways. And I've talked about that on my relationship podcast. Wasn't so great in a relationship to be so reactive. So we can learn how, when we understand, that's when we can learn how to tailor in the right situations, how to have it as a strength and have a direct conversation with somebody. Which people appreciate instead of beating around the bush. Like,
no, there's value on all the different approaches, but then it's you understanding how other people are perceiving you and being more, intentional instead of being autopilot. This is just how I operate this is how I operate. However, I know this person operates differently. So I can choose right now to act a little bit differently, not because I'm not being true to myself, but just because of the relationship, because of the situation. But it has to start with that self-awareness for sure.
I love that. And because you can say what you want to say, just in a different way.
Yeah.
It's not
exactly.
taking away what your thoughts are, your opinions,
Mhm.
or anything like that. So are there specific patterns then towards this self-awareness?
Well, I would say it starts with understanding which of your insecurity you have the most. And then ideally combining that with where did that come from? So I talk about in my book about childhood wounds. Usually that starts with something. And in my case, what I have been able to identify, like I said, is the stories that I heard. And sometimes we have specific things that were said. And I've done so many different coaching programs and journaling. And at times you can't really find something. And that's okay. The point is not for you to be like, oh my gosh, I need to go back into all the years of my life and find out that day I was 3. Like, no, don't worry about it. If it comes up, awesome. And if it not, just understand that this is something that happens and start looking into the future when it happens to you. Paying attention. Oh yeah, why did this bother me? Like that is an exercise that needs to be done more often than not is why did this bother me so much? I mean, how many times you're having an okay day and then all of a sudden you're really pissed off?
There's a trigger.
There's a reason.
Yeah. What was it? Yeah.
Investigated, right? And be like, oh, let's get curious here. What did this person do? What was it? Maybe it wasn't even something that somebody did. It was literally a picture you saw on social media. Like, who knows? So get curious.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that where you see it, it just sparks something in you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great opportunity to learn from that.
Yes, it is.
And I tell all my people, check yourself before you wreck yourself. You don't have to react.
Exactly.
That was something I've learned over the last several years. You don't have to react right away to everything. You can sit and just ponder it for a minute. Where did that come from? Why would I even react to something like that? Like you said, you could be in a great space that particular day. One word, a little meme could be like, whoa. And you feel it and the more self-aware you become, you'll feel your body react.
Yeah.
Like, right? It just, and it doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
But when you sit and did this come from maybe something led to childhood? Like you had your mom had said things like that. I remember my evil stepmonster sat us down. I was adopted, sat us down on the porch and my adoptive mother had passed away. And she said, your father never wanted either of you. It was only your mother did. Well, when you have a 10 and 14-year-old sitting there to hear that, you don't forget that. So all throughout your life, there goes back to that not enough. Right? Just like you. And interestingly, we're both activators who are all about doing. So it causes you to do more and more. And I think that allows you to not sit with yourself as easily.
Exactly. Because you don't know what you're going to get if you're in quiet, listening to your thoughts.
Right? And there's that fear again, because what if oh my God, what if I have to face this? Yeah. And totally. Again, it's all perception. So when you change that perception, just like anything, oh my God, why is this happening to me? To why is this happening for me? There's something out of this. So just changing that perception of what am I going to see? What am I going to hear when I sit with myself to what do I get to find out about me?
Yeah.
By spending that time with me. And I'll tell you, my little self-isolation of really, it was more like 4 months, over 4 months. I think the last 2 were to do this podcast, but I spent more time at the age of 58 by myself than I have in 58 years, more time solo. And it was the most rewarding to me because I got to see and hear so much and go to that deeper level. And then when you emerge from that, it might be uncomfortable. It was super uncomfortable at times, but the more and I think you'll resonate with this, the more you fight something or feel like I have to know this, you're creating that resistance. That's just a big block in moving forward. Totally. But when you just say, I am where I am right now and find that peace with where you are and to keep moving forward and embracing, learning who you are, it just allows for so much more to come from that than the constant fighting of it, which we do all the freaking time.
And it's like that quote, what you resist persists. It's amazing when you decide to process, whether it be talking to somebody, journaling, or just thinking about it, and be like, giving it the time of day to think about, it becomes so much smaller. Like a fear. huge mountain, you start talking about it, you're like, well, actually, that's not so bad. And then you feel silly.
You do. And you laugh about it, but that's the thing. It lightens you up. You look and go, here, I thought it was one of the 14ers here, and it really was a crack in the sidewalk. I just had to jump over. Mm-hmm. And here I was looking at it as this huge thing. And, it's fun. Even, and I don't know about you, I can only take in so much information, and then I'm overwhelmed. It's too much. And that's that connectory brain. That's the inability to focus harder. So I know that I have to take things in small amounts, because too much, I'm done. I'm checked out. And I really look at other people and say, how can you listen to every podcast? You read all these, like a book a week. How do you retain all this? I can go, Tim, I get what I need, and I'm good with that. And I envy those people, but I say, but give me what I need to take action, and I'm good. And then you have your people that can deep dive and go really deep into things. And I just think that's fantastic. And I envy that. And I wish, but we are where we are.
We are where we are.
So you talk self-empowerment, and go a little bit more into the self-empowerment, how, as we know ourselves, that this is why it's raw and real, people.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to edit that. How it is like going to, whether it's a dark space, having to sit through that, spend your time alone, get to know yourself, understand you, how that takes you into self-empowerment, and why that's so important, whether you're an entrepreneur or a mom at home.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it starts with that, because I was saying, how can you love somebody that you don't know? So getting to know yourself, and then focusing on the things that you appreciate about yourself. And this is an exercise that I learned in one of the very first coaching programs that I took back in 2017, called the brag book. And that's something that I talk about in my book. The best way for you to empower yourself, which then again, it translates into the visibility work, like I said before, is taking the time to brag. And start with yourself, okay? If it's too hard for you to go and tell a friend, hey, I did this. Sweet. Then do it with you. Write it down, or just think, wow, how cool am I that I did this? Because at times, even just thinking, we may feel so wrong. How could I? How dare I think that I'm, special? Or that
all that.
Some hot stuff. Exactly. But this is what cultivates that empowerment is, think about, I just thought of athletes, how they visualize what they're going to be doing when they're not even practicing, right? They spend hours just, meditating, visualizing that move, that jump, that whatever. What are they doing? They are telling themselves, I'm awesome and I can do this. And I've done it before, so I can do it again. So why wouldn't you be able to do this with other parts of your life, whether it be raising your kids, building your business? So a brag book is exactly that. People are so, raving about gratitude journals, which I think those are great too. We need gratitude in life, gratitude for ourselves. But that's what the brag book really is you being grateful for your achievements and not expecting people, because you were talking about that too. Some people are afraid of being alone because they expect others to be validating them all the time. Well, how about starting a practice where you validate yourself more often? What am I proud of having done today? I folded the laundry. Amazing. Usually I don't. It takes me 4 days. It kind of took awesome. It could be something bigger. I'm the first person that has a degree in my family, or I don't know, I made more money this month, whatever it may be. And it doesn't have to be something public. It can be public if you'd like. Sure. Start with recognizing yourself, because then the external validation is going to be a bonus.
It's crazy how we are so quick to validate others and so resistant to validating ourselves.
Yeah.
And saying, I'm good at what I do, or you know what, I have triplets, I'm a damn good mom. Right? Even just the smallest things, making the bed in the morning. Yeah. You accomplish something. Mm-hmm. And I do that with tell my clients, every little win is actually a big victory.
Yeah.
Celebrate. Totally. We don't celebrate enough. And I remember around my birthday time, I said, I want to have a celebration dinner for me. And why do we have to wait for someone else to say, well, let's do something for your birthday? Mm-hmm. Right? Because we're just so uncomfortable celebrating ourselves, and we look for our friends to celebrate us. Yeah. But when it comes from within, look how, again, that can ripple effect around you where others will start celebrating themselves. And the more we
Yeah.
do that, like you said, it's not a selfish thing. It
Right.
improves everything around us because then we're coming from that place of love that gets put out there. And so often we're coming from the places of fear, the
Yeah.
places of rejection, the fear of the unknown. What's going to happen if I do this? Doesn't matter. Just do it. Find out, right? And transformation, self-acceptance.
And you talked about that right in the beginning. We were saying they start acting different. And once they start working with you, and then you say, wow, it's like you're a different person. No, it's who you were always meant to be. It's just, you're just letting it shine. And so that's my perception of transformation. Because usually you think, oh, butterfly, the caterpillar turns into, well, it was always the same thing.
It was always, it bloomed.
It just bloomed. Exactly. So the way you transform is it's not becoming someone else. It's becoming more of who you are. But again, you can only become that if you take the time to figure out what that is.
Amen. I love this. And the brag book. I love that. I keep saying, I love this, but I truly do. This is me just sitting here and feeding Marta a bunch of bullshit going, oh, I love what you're saying. Cause I actually do love what you're saying. And I resonate with all of it. And I know my listeners are going to resonate with this as well. It's so much of what I hear. When it really hit me was the first time a client said to me as we're going through, and they said, I feel like for the first time in my life, I have permission to be who I am.
Yes.
Because there's that instinct in there wanting to do these things, wanting to feel these things, say these things. And then that ego coming in, or I say like the evil twin on the one side saying, shh, no, you're not supposed to say that. That just shuts us down. And then as you gain this self-awareness, that it feels like it is a permission. And I said, no one's giving you permission. You've always had it.
Right.
You just didn't know how to work with it and what it was. And to have, I think when they see something tangible, whether it's Enneagram, PH360, doesn't freaking matter. They can look at this and read it and they see it and it can hit them to dive in more and see those parts. Because anytime you do any type of a personality type test or even mine, we even talk about this is where this body type or this health type has strengths. And these are things that could be potential weaknesses. And weaknesses don't have to be, quote, weak or bad, right? You can always, same with DNA. Like we all have some good DNA and we all have some crap. Doesn't mean you can't dial up the crap, like turn those things down and upregulate the good stuff. Who we are, it's so different. It's so different. So are there any other things you could bring in? Any other words of wisdom to the people listening out there?
Well, I love what you said about the permission, because it got me thinking about how freeing it is. It's like you realizing that you were in this invisible prison, which is conditioning, right? Whether it be from your family, societal, cultural, whatever it may be. Or like whatever story, I don't know if it's the true story, but it probably is, like elephants that grow up in the circus and they're tied to this little tree when they're babies, and then they grow up to be these ginormous animals, but they're tied to the tree and they think, well, I'm tied and I can't break free until they realize I actually can. That's the same thing, right? You read this assessment, you go through this test, and it's like, well, you are actually meant to be this. You could have been that at any given point. And I've, realized this about myself so many times with the business and with launching my music career recently. Because for me, in my mind, it's like, I'm 30 some years old. I'm not going to release a music career. Music is, for church and at home. And I was like, no, it's not if I don't want it to be.
Nope. There's your perception, right? It's whatever you want it to be. And it's obviously a huge part of who you are. And my guess is expression.
Yes.
Who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you brought up the freedom part, the thing that took me back to was any coach. You have to get to the person's why. What brought you to me? What brought you to this point in your life where you want to make a change? So it could be something as simple as they say, well, I want to lose weight. Okay. Well, why do you want to lose weight? Well, so I can fit in my clothes. And what's fitting in your clothes going to do for you?
Right.
Well, I'm going to feel more comfortable. Okay. Well, what does that do? Well, then the confidence. And then my partner is going to desire me more. so I can be, put myself out there. I can be more confident at work. There's your whys, right? There's the freedom that understanding you and coming out of your freaking cocoon and being the butterfly that you were meant to be. That's that freedom that it provides. But if you don't sit with yourself in your little quiet space and ask, why are you where you are? Like, what's keeping you? And why do you not want to be there anymore? I did a post on Facebook, I think it was earlier this week, and it was like the first step in deciding you don't want to be somewhere. Oh God, now I can't remember what it was. It got more likes than most of it, a lot of it. But it was like the first step was deciding that you don't want to stay there. That was like the first step, is deciding I don't want to be where I am anymore. Right. You have to get to that step, because people can bitch and moan all the time. And I'm sure you hear about complaining like, well, I don't have this, I don't have that. They're in a place of complete lack.
Yeah.
Of I don't have this, I don't have this. What do you have? And why, if you don't have the other things, a lot of that's under your control and your perception. So why is that happening? And what's the freedom that you want to bring to it, or your why? And when you see that, it allows that blossoming that we're talking about.
It's so freeing.
Yeah. This is just such a fun conversation. Any other takeaways you have to give to anybody?
Well, I would say if anyone's curious about the types, right? Because I developed the 3 types that cover these 3 insecurities. I do have a quiz on my website. It's martaspirk.com/quiz. The 3 types are the thinkers, feelers, or doers. And you may think you already know who you are just by these names, but take the quiz so that you'll understand a little bit more how I've grouped them together. And it could be another tool for you to give yourself the permission to be more who you are.
And even if you already know your health type, go still do that, because again, it's another aspect of this where you could even go a little bit deeper on it and know even more and give you more validation as to who you are and why, and to just keep moving forward. Because isn't that the thing? We just want to keep going, keep moving. I don't mean physically moving, people, for those of you that are like, oh God, seriously, you people that just don't stop. No, I don't mean that way. I mean, keep progressing, and reiterate for people also, for me, that it's okay to take a couple steps back.
Yes, especially for the hyperactive of us that are always, wanting to overcompensate. It really depends on where you are. Because that's what I say, not all advice is good advice, right? If I tell somebody that loves sitting down and not doing anything to just chill out, like that's not good advice. And if you tell somebody like me, do more, okay, I will do more and I will run myself to the ground. So it has to be unique to you.
Yeah. And it's funny because this health type, the activator, that is just literally made for movement. The number one priority is movement, but we have to play hard, work hard, and we have to rest hard. So I'll have, including myself, even if it's 10, 15 minutes a day, I have a client that's a chiropractor, and she's wall-to-wall, like back-to-back person all day long. And she's spent by the end, like completely exhausted. So start scheduling in just 10-minute breaks to go breathe, or go walk around your building once, lay flat on your back with your feet up for just 10, 15 minutes can be a whole reset. And she said, like, she started having, if a client had to reschedule, she didn't try to fill that spot. So she would have openings, and she said, my God, what a difference in her day just from taking that break. And she's an activator. Just to have those little breaks in the day of working hard and then just take a hard rest and back. Not to where she has to sit there and freaking meditate. Like you said, just be totally still. There's times she likes the stillness, and times like just to move or have a snack or something. Take that break. And it's the hardest to tell people like us. Just the same as it is your procrastinator type to say, well, you need to go take action now.
Yeah.
You need to move. And that creates more angst in them.
Right.
Now what do I do?
It's the opposite effect.
Oh, analysis paralysis. They're done. They check out. Well, I think this is going to be super empowering to my listeners. I am so thankful you came on here. And tell us if someone wants to work with you, and particularly female entrepreneurs.
Yes.
that need to be more visible, I think I might be hitting you up as to
let's do it.
This is a new foray for me into all of this being public, and it's, there's still some things there how I can always do more as well. And I think you're a wealth of expertise there. So how would someone go about working with you or getting into one of your groups you have, or your is the school? Was it the school?
Yeah,
Empowered Women's School.
Mm-hmm. So just go to my website, martaspirk.com. And then I have one of the pages is programs, and I have several offers, but my three main ones is the membership, which is a lower entry point. We meet on Zoom 3 times a month. So it's really nice to get to know me also in the community, see if we jive, see if it's something that, will work out for you. And then after that, I do VIP days. So if you want to really accelerate, get something done really fast, build a launch for your next program or for your podcast, for your book, whatever it may be, we can build that together. And my favorite is a 6-month mastermind, more visibility mastermind, because then we actually have time to create plans to launch and adjust as we go together and work on all kinds of different things. And I love being in a group setting, because working one-on-one is good, but it's even better when you leverage the visibility of the group, because you're promoting yourself to the other people that are in the group. You can find collaborations and partnerships and see other entrepreneurs in action, because it can be really isolating, as you know, to be like, I'm the only one on earth struggling to make money this month. And then you're in the group and somebody else is struggling too, So I love having a mastermind.
So the mastermind, is it a large group? Is it a small group?
No, it's a smaller group, usually about 10, 15 people. I'm wrapping up this round. I usually run them, half of the year. So in the summer, I'm going to be reopening it. At times people renew and continue on, but it's a smaller group for the very purpose of let's get to know each other, let's support each other, and essentially work with me one-on-one, because it's such a small group, but you get the benefit of being in a community.
That's fantastic. So several different ways to work with Marta, and to get involved on her website and do you have a Facebook page as well where people can get involved? And
all over social media. So if you are wanting to be visible and practice what I've been preaching here, find me, send me a message. I am social. I will respond personally on Facebook, on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can find my podcast and listen in, but send me a message or send me an email, whatever.
Is there anywhere you're not visible?
I have tried TikTok a couple times and I end up deleting the app. So that is one thing that I have. It just hasn't been my thing. I don't know if it ever will be. You never say never, but you will not find me there.
Thank you so much. Tons of ways for people to contact you, and do not call her Marla. It's Marta.
Oh, my kids call me Martha sometimes because they know I don't like it. I mean, I don't care. Some people make the mistake. There's no H, but hey, at least it wasn't Martha.
What would it be? Did it translate differently from Brazil? Would Martha be the American version?
In Portuguese, there's no H, and so it's Marta, and the same in Spanish and other Latin languages, there is no H. So
I did not know that. So see, we just keep learning. That's the beauty of this. So this has been such a fun talk. And you guys hit up Marta. She's, especially if you are a female business owner, you need to be visible. You're worth it. Your business is worth it. Get out there, show who you are, what you are. And for everybody, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, be your authentic self. Let that part of you shine. It's beautiful. And it doesn't matter who accepts it or not. You have to accept it and love it, and it will transform your life 100%. So you can work with Marta. You can work with me. Any way you look at it, we're here to help you live your best life. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and thank you for coming on, Marta. Have a great day, everybody, and go let your authentic self shine.
Thank you for tuning into my podcast. If you enjoyed this week's episode, I'd love for you to share it with someone who'd find the information useful. Please leave a review anywhere you listen to podcasts, and it'll help the information get out to others. If you're interested in seeing if we're a great fit to work together, the link is in the show notes below, where you can sign up for a free consultation with me. So go make it a great day and let your authentic self shine.